Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're looking at something that might seem kind of like just celebrity gossip.
Mhm.
At first glance, Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi moving to England, but I think there's a lot more to it than that.
I think so too. It's
So,
really fascinating to me because it goes beyond the typical, celebrity real estate, buying and selling houses.
mm,
This is a power couple seemingly at the top of their game, and they're choosing to leave the US, and it's making people think like, huh, what would it take for me to do something like that?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, for anyone who needs a little refresher, Ellen DeGeneres, comedian, talk show host, and Portia de Rossi, the actress, they've moved to the Cotswolds in England,
Right.
and like Stig Rolling Hills, charming villages,
Mhm.
and they've got some pretty famous neighbors over there, like the Beckhams.
Oh, wow.
So, not exactly roughing it, right?
No, not at all. It seems like they've found a place that really kind of mirrors that upscale lifestyle that they enjoyed in Montecito, California.
Mm.
But here's the thing, they've put their Montecito estate on the market, and multiple sources are saying they're never coming back to the US.
Yeah, that's a big statement,
It is.
right? And the reason behind it seems to be tied to Donald Trump's reelection as president.
That's right. They haven't explicitly confirmed it themselves, but people close to them say that the election results were really like the final straw for them. They actually bought the house in England before the election almost as a backup plan, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then when Trump won, it was kind of like, okay, that's it, we're out.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it might seem a little bit like an overreaction, but when you think about it, I mean, how much can these political events feel really personal, especially in such a polarized environment as it we have these days? Like, have you ever felt so strongly about something that you'd consider like making a huge life change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question a lot of people are asking themselves right now. And it's not always about politics either. Sometimes it's social issues, sometimes it's climate change. We're seeing more and more people kind of putting their personal values first and trying to find a place in the world that aligns with those values, even if it means making a really big change.
Yeah, and this isn't just some random impulse for Ellen and Portia. I mean, they've bought and sold at least 21 properties in Montecito.
Wow.
They even stayed through like some pretty intense natural disasters there.
Yeah.
So this move really signals, I don't know, like a deeper shift.
Mm.
Something more than just wanting a change of scenery.
For sure. I mean, especially considering, what Ellen's gone through recently with her career. Her talk show ended kind of in the middle of all those allegations about the toxic workplace, and she's talked about how hard that was on her. So this move to England could be like a way to heal, like a way to get away from all that negativity and start fresh.
Yeah, it really makes you think, huh, like what would be so important to me that I would make a change that big? I know. That's a really interesting question to think about. Like, how much weight should we give our own personal values when we're making these big life choices?
Yeah. And it's kind of like this situation is a perfect example of how those personal values bump up against global events. We hear all the time about people feeling disillusioned with politics or anxious about the future. But Ellen and Portia are taking it a step further. They're basically saying, okay, we're not just going to sit around and talk about it. We're
Yeah.
actually going to do something about it.
Yeah, and for them, it's not just about politics, right? It's about having a life that feels real to them and matches up with what they believe in. It's almost like they're redefining what it means to be successful. Like, is it about fame and money, or is it about living in a way that feels true to yourself, even if it means doing something that other people think is weird?
Exactly. It's a really powerful message, especially these days when it feels like everyone is always focused on what you achieve on the outside rather than what's going on inside. This move is like a challenge to that whole way of thinking. It's like saying, hey, maybe success isn't about staying in the same place, even if it's supposed to be like the best place to be. Maybe it's about being brave enough to walk away and create something totally new.
Yeah, but let's be honest, not everyone can just up and move to another country. I mean, most of us have jobs and families, things that keep us where we are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, their situation is pretty unique.
Hmm.
But I do think there's a principle here that applies to everyone. It's about recognizing when something just feels wrong, like it's going against what you believe in. And then it's about having the courage to make a change, even if it's a small one. Maybe it's switching careers. Maybe it's living more simply or getting more involved in your community.
So it's less about the specific thing you do
Yeah.
and more about why you're doing it.
That's it. It's about asking yourself, what am I doing that makes me feel like I'm compromising my own well-being? And then what can I do, even within my own life, to live more authentically?
Yeah, I get that because I think we've all had those moments when we feel kind of powerless against everything that's going on in the world, whether it's all the political craziness or just the day-to-day grind.
Right. And this story gives us a different way to look at it. It reminds us that we do have choices. We can choose to stay where we are and try to change things from within, or we can choose to create something new, even if it's just for ourselves, our own personal Cotswolds, if you will. A place, whether it's a real place or just an idea where we feel like we belong and where our values are reflected.
I love that. Finding your own Cotswolds. That's a really great way to put it because it's not about running away from reality. It's about creating a reality that feels truer to who you are.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe when one person changes like that, it can inspire other people to do the same. Just imagine a world where more people felt like they can make choices based on what they really value. That's a pretty powerful idea.
It really is. And it starts with those small acts of courage, those little decisions that we make that end up shaping the world we live in.
Yeah.
Speaking of choices, it's interesting to think about Ellen and Portia's real estate history.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about how they've bought and sold so many properties in Montecito?
Oh, yeah. They obviously really love that area.
Mm.
And they even stayed there during those crazy weather events, which says something about how much they felt connected to that community. So what does it say that this was the thing that made them leave? That this was the thing that made them say, we can't do this anymore. We need a change.
Yeah, it really makes you think,
Mm.
like what are the things in my life that are that important to me that I would make a change like that?
Yeah. It's a good question to ask yourself, I think. Because it's easy to get caught up in just like the day to day, and you forget about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think this story is a good reminder that we do have control over our lives, even when it feels like everything around us is chaotic.
And it's amazing how many people have connected with this story. I've seen people online talking about how they've been feeling the same way, like disillusioned and kind of lost.
Yeah.
And seeing Ellen and Portia make this move has given them hope. Like it's okay to put your own well-being first and go find a place that feels right for you.
It definitely feels like something a lot of people are feeling right now. Like they want more control over their lives, especially when the world feels so overwhelming. And like you said, even if we can't all just move to another country, there are still ways to create that Cotswolds feeling in our own lives.
Totally. Like maybe it's about finding your people, your community. Or maybe it's just about making time for the things that make you happy and feel like you're doing something that matters.
Exactly. It's about realizing that taking care of yourself is important. And that even making a small change can make a big difference, not just for you, but for the people around you too.
This has been such a great deep dive. It started with this celebrity story, but it's really about so much more. It's about what we value as people and making choices that reflect those values. And it's about finding where you belong in a world that's always changing.
Absolutely. And I think it's a conversation that we should all keep having. So as you're going about your day, think about what your Cotswolds looks like. What can you do, whether it's big or small, to create a life that really feels like it's yours?
I love that. Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep finding those things that remind you what really matters.